How do I get multiple looks like these from one lighting setup? This video will show you how to set up, dial in, and quickly get multiple looks during just one shooting session without having to move a single light or your subject. We are going to discuss how to create different lighting recipes on the same set so you can maximize your space and the time with your subject. For this demo, I'm going to use this Mola Rail silver reflector as my main light, a Profoto D3 with a zoom reflector going through an 8x8 frame as my fill light, and two Glow Perisnap 1x4 strips as my background lights. First, let's look at the main light, which is a Mola Rail silver. I have it on channel 1, group A. It gives me this very hard, dramatic light. I get deep shadows on our model, and currently I have it set to f8. Now, I want to reduce the contrast to my shadows relative to my highlights. So I'm going to add in my 8x8 frame and the D3 as my fill light and set it 2 stops below the power of my main light. Here's a before and an after. You can see that the shadows are not as dark and we are picking up the fill light as a catch light in the eyes. And this is just a fill light by itself. To be able to easily toggle this on and off, I have my fill light set to channel 1, group B. Now I want to brighten up the background. My background lights are set to channel 1, group C, so I meter them to get my seamless paper to measure 1 to 1.5 stops over my main light. Now, when I add in my background lights, I have a more high key image. And this is what it looks like if I turn off the main light. Then I turn off the fill light, and then this is just the light all by itself. So now, how do we get multiple looks from one lighting setup? We already have a very dramatic shot with just the main light. Then we reduce some of the contrast or drama by adding in a fill light, and then we make it a higher key image by adding in the background lights. So we already have 3 options from this one studio setup. But now let's take it one step further and meter each of the lights so that our background and our fill lights now become our main light. Let's see where we're going here. So now I'm going to use our fill light, but instead of shooting it 2 stops below our main light, I turn it up to f8, and now it becomes our main light. Since it's positioned behind me and wrapping around me, it gives us a virtually shadowless flat light. This look is flattering on virtually anyone. The images have a very soft yet high key look, almost like you mixed a softbox with a ring light, and they show clothing off very well. Now, to get more creative, I'm going to turn my background lights back on and turn all the other lights off. They are currently metered at f11 on the background, but f4 on the front of our model, giving us a silhouette of our subject with soft light bouncing around the room, giving us a soft fill and wraparound accent lights. And I do adjust my aperture or ISO so that the front of our model is underexposed by about 2 stops, and we get this ethereal looking image. I do make some exposure and curve adjustments in post, but I shoot to capture full detail. An easy way to get more light in the front is by using 2 V-flats to bounce more light coming from the background onto your model, or you could turn your fill light back on as well. You can also put a V-flat behind your model and adjust the exposure based on the light coming from the sides, and now I get a completely different look where my background lights are bouncing around the room and the light is wrapping around, giving us this very glowy image. Now, my favorite looks from this setup were just using the main light by itself and working with the model's head position to control the face shadows on her face. The full-length images are really what made me fall in love with just using our main light. My second favorite was having all the lights on, but adding in these V-flats for negative fill to incorporate more shadows into the model's face. Here is without the V-flat, and then with the V-flats providing negative fill. So without adding the V-flats, we have just the Mola Rail reflector as our main light, then the 8x8 magic cloth as the fill light, and then these background lights to give it a more high key look. Then we have just the fill light by itself and the background lights by themselves. So this gives us 5 looks. With additions of V-flats, we were able to modify this setup for even more looks as well. My one tip here is after you come up with a lighting setup that enables you to get multiple looks from one setup, write down what your light's metered at and create a lighting diagram so you can repeat this setup when needed. Using a meter allows you to use any lights, no matter their power, and just set each light to the desired exposure. If you don't use a meter, using the same lights in the same space, I'd start writing down the power settings and the camera settings you use to make it a little bit easier to dial things in later on by eye. It can also be extra helpful to take a shot showing what each light was doing individually, in which I show you my main light, fill light, and then background lights, but remembering to show them individually without changing the camera's exposure so you can see what power they were set to relative to one another. Even after taking detailed meter readings and replicating different lighting diagrams, I always find myself seasoning to taste after I see the final images based on skin tone or wardrobe, but I always like to start out with a strong base, and if I'm shooting for the same client, I may want to reproduce what I have done previously as exacting as possible. So we can easily capture these 5 looks without moving a thing. So I want to hear from you. How many other lighting combinations did I leave out? And I'd love to see what results you get. Post on Instagram and tag our PPA and Ab Sesay _photo so we can see your lighting setups. My name is Ab Sesay, and as you know, there are levels to this. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell to see more videos just like this and other creators on the PPA YouTube channel.